Hey, yes, it's me, Shirvington, Hannays, and it is Sunday. Yes, yes, 2 days away from Friday. My sincere apologies for not making it last Friday. I mean, it should have been a week of me celebrating, but it turned out to be a week of enforced self care, much needed self care. And I'm back and I'm fresh and ready to bring this home, get to the finish line. Two more episodes to how to rescue yourself from repeat relapse because of chronic low self esteem and self sabotaging mindsets. I am your counselor on call because your mental health matters. Namaste. To the few persons who may be watching, you know yourself, I've been in touch with for different reasons. You've got this. That's right. You've got tomorrow. You've got this. Call it. You've got it. Go on. Sit with it. You also got this. All of you watching, whatever time you might be viewing this, whatever it is that is there that seem like a mountain challenge, you've got this. That is the mindset that will bring home and bring to the point. You've got this. So today's episode, we are gonna play around a little more with what we started last week with problems. Why people, all of us. That's right. I've never told anyone that I've got all of this covered and I don't have challenges and opportunities for growing and learning. Far from. But we all got this. Now, one of the things that I like to emphasize is what M. Scott Peck referred to as a disorder of responsibility. And he put forward that human beings have either one or two traits or personality styles of how they deal with problem solving. And he coined it disorder of responsibility. And I quote: most people who come to see a therapist or psychiatrist are suffering from what is called neurosis or character disorder. Put more simply, these two conditions are disorder of responsibility, and as such are opposite styles of relating to the world and its problems. The neurotic assumes too much responsibility. The person with a character disorder, not enough responsibility. When the neurotics are in conflict with the world, they automatically assume that they're at fault. When those with a character disorder are in conflict with the world, they automatically assume the world is at fault. Okay, with the stage set with that, which category or which condition you would say that you most likely turn to when there are time to solve problems? I like to say when there are times that you have to go through whatever it is that is showing up in your life, the only way to resolve it, to solve it as a potential opportunity to be a problem, and problem here doesn't have a label good or bad. Something that you have to undertake, overcome. But some of us like to do this. Yes, you can get to the other side of the problem, but how are you going to get there? You can get there by going around it. That doesn't mean you've solved it or addressed it or look at it or sit with it, experience it. You can jump over it, fly over. You can go under. But does that mean that you have experience and solved it? So, have you decided which one of the conditions, according to Scotty, that you use, which is your default style? Okay, I've declared that mine is neurotic. Neurosis? Oh boy. A vice president of that club. I don't think I got to the pinnacle of that, but I had a very serious case, and I said had don't mean mastered. I still visit there from time to time, but now I'm at a better place where I can nip it in the bud and say, no, I will take what responsibility my actions or inactions might have played. And as such, I have some amount of responsibility. It doesn't have to always be 100% responsibility that you take in a situation that you're involved in, either way, but you must arrive at a place where you understand that as a person who are constantly making choices that has consequences, when it shows up in your life at your doorstep, you must take some amount of responsibility. What is that? Well, so you are going through the process of grief. No, I'm not saying that the fact that the person might have transitioned, that is now your responsibility. But the spiritual choice that you made to make that person a part of your life, especially if the person was a very close person, let's say a grandparent, a parent, well, you came through their lineage. So spiritually, you made a choice. So you're always left with a choice. Because if you are religious and you believe that the essence of that which caused us all to be, that's why we're called human beings, you collaborated, conspired with that, and you became a reality. Okay, yes. Okay, sure. Just stop. Now, because it's Sunday, you're going to get a little spiritual. So let's get back to problem solving. So we're saying that everything that shows up, especially with the case of lapse, relapse, or why people turn to substances or addictive behaviors in the first place, it has to do with a willingness or unwillingness to solve problems. Okay, so I have a little treat for you, and this one will be up. I acknowledge that week 5 last week, I did not put up again for the third time all the forms that were already there from week 4 and week 1. Most of it touched on how to, quote unquote, capture a lapse, relapse. What is the thinking that you've returned to? Because ultimately, we've agreed that it's the thinking that promotes the behavior and not the behavior that promotes the thinking. It may seem so if it's a repeated cycle and you're in a circular motion that you might want to think that, okay, the behavior is coming first and the thinking is coming after. And sometimes that might be the case, depending on the circular motion of the circle or the cycle that you're in with your repeated relapsing. But what I'm going to share with you, and I will put this up, is to problem solve. We go to what smart recovery, and I'm going to put a plug here for smartrecovery.org. Smartrecovery.org. They have a very simplified way of looking at problem solving, and it's the ABC problem solving method. Or here we have a worksheet and it goes A, B, C. So A is the activating event. What is it that activated that you need to address something that is now potentially showing up for you as a problem? So the activating event. What is the activating event? What happened? What did I do? What did others do? What idea occurred to me? What emotions was I feeling? Uh-huh. So the difference there is that we tend to think that, okay, what I felt, what I'm feeling, the two isn't necessarily the same. Yes, to feel is a sensation, sense of touch. So you feel that. But feelings that are tied to what we label as emotions come based on something that makes us all human, a stimulus of some sort. Something happened. What is it? But based on the A activating event comes the C, not the B, the C that I spoke about last week, consequences. So based on the activating event, consequences, I feel anger. I am depressed. I feel there's some amount of anxiety here, frustration, self-pity. I'm behaving in a way that doesn't work for me. Ah, addictive behaviors, whether it be substance use, abuse, or misuse, or it can be or it can be adaptive behaviors that no longer serve you and have become maladaptive. So, next, just beneath, surrounding, encompassing the consequences and the activating event is the key to all of this that Sigmund Freud nailed. What are the beliefs about what you're feeling, the emotions, what you've labeled it as, and the consequences that showed up as a result of the activating moment or event that made you bring to the fore some form of a choice, either to act or not to act. But you've acted. If you haven't embraced to do anything, that is a choice. So we're always making choices to do something or not do something. And this is where the key to changing behaviors really lies. We think sometimes that if we don't do anything, that suddenly, miraculously, the thing would just disappear. And we don't have to have responsibility. It goes back to what Scotty said so beautifully with the disorder of responsibility. Whether it's neurotic, you take too much of the responsibility, or character disorder where you take none or not enough and you blame it on the world. So let's, before we move forward about beliefs, about the consequences, about the choices, what is the belief that is promoting the behavior? Uh-huh. My familiar signature saying, beliefs promotes behaviors. What is a belief? Well, I should not have to do this. I am better than that. Either superiority complex or inferiority complex. There's an absolute in either case. And a lot of time it's rooted in shoulds, should not, must not. So this is where I get to come in to work with a client on these cognitive dissonance. And it's a cognitive dissonance because it's rooted in something that clearly no longer works. And you've got, okay, 10 of them unhelpful thinking styles that we addressed in week 3 or week 4, I think it was. So, what is the cognitive dissonance that have got you either stuck, frustrated, or overwhelmed. So, in terms of our stance, whether your condition or your approach to how you resolve or avoid problems is one of being neurotic, you take on too much responsibility and then you're overwhelmed, or you have a character disorder and you don't take on any or enough, and you blame everything, everyone, and the world for why this is showing up in your world. And then, why should this be happening to poor old me? Look at me. I haven't done anything to deserve this. Or you've taken on too much, and then the victim mentality comes either way. Neurotics or character disorder persons. Because you can take on too much responsibility, me, and then you get balling. Why does this always happen to me? Well, you don't have boundaries. Your boundaries are porous. Even if you do have them up, people can get through them very easily. Me. So I'm a recovering person, neurotic. And I have to work very seriously on myself. So now I can say healthy no's. No. I like to, with the laughing therapist, I like to use this. No, it's my celebration or my homage to kids who, at that good age in their psychological development, they get to a point where everything for them is no. But to get healthy boundaries, you might have to go back to that period. And we call that transference. You might have to go back to a place where you operate, okay, as a child. In most cases, you revert back to that state. But you do it in relation to another person, and oftentimes with relation to a clinician or someone in a relationship, you suddenly start behaving childlike, transference. And if it's a clinician and they're behaving, I don't know, childlike, or they've reverted to a stage previously in which they acted in response to someone and they're behaving like that with a client, that is countertransference. I just thought I'd put that in there. But transference shows up not only in clinical relationships, but as a client. It was a client who once brought that to my idea and said, don't you think that transference happen in relationships? And it was like, wow. So that's how I grow as well with clients. Come on. Not every client that shows up is in some way beneath me in terms of academic standing and all of that. There are clients who show up and believe me. They've got it on PhD, masters, the whole works. And I learn and grow, and I look forward to the opportunity to doing so. So there again, humility. So why people repeatedly relapsing and then how to solve the problem? So bing bang, we're about to nail it because this is week 6 in how to rescue yourself from repeat relapsing as a result of chronic low self-esteem and self-sabotaging behavior. Come Friday, that will be our last episode that wraps this up. And of course, the episodes all will be on the website for how to rescue yourself. And that will be in a little tab under how to rescue yourself from repeated relapsing due to chronic low self-esteem and self-sabotaging behaviors. So, drum roll, back to it's the belief that is promoting the behavior. But the beliefs, oftentimes very dysfunctional in nature. What do I believe about the activating event? First and foremost, do I believe that it shouldn't happen to me? Do I believe that the world is out to get me? Do I believe that, oh, they have it in for me? What do you believe about the thing that happened? Determines oftentimes how you respond to it and the feelings that goes with that. It's your beliefs. And Sigmund Freud addressed this when he talked about superego. What are the things, your values, your morals, all these things that are subconscious, that isn't very much conscious to you, but plays an integral part and directs how you're acting and reacting and behaving. Starting first with your thinking, the beliefs about the event. And that's why sometimes we show up in events and worlds and situations and relationships, and we want to know, did I do that? Where did it come from? Check your super ego. Check your beliefs. What do you believe? Why do you keep relapsing? Well, your core beliefs about yourself, about even the substance or the behavior, although you might have changed, you stop. And that's why for me, it's not about the substance. I keep saying this. And in therapy with people, oftentimes I work with them, and we don't even talk that much about the substance. Because once we address and we get to what are the core beliefs that we're working with, we've gotten to the root of the problem. So we know the broad definition in terms of impulsivity, compulsivity, and the inability to delay gratification. Hallmark signs that leads to the loss of control, that leads to either dependency or a substance use disorder or some disorder across all facets or area of your life. Addictions. And that's why you don't see that. You wouldn't see that in the DSM-5 or the ICD-10, International Classification of Diseases, version 10, or the DSM-5, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, got it? 5. Nailed it. All right. So, beliefs. Which of my beliefs are my helpful self enhancing beliefs and which are my dysfunctional self defeating beliefs? So, voila, there you have it. Self defeating mindsets are rooted in dysfunctional self defeating beliefs. So, for me, I can tell you everything, but if you are not willing to sit with what do I believe about myself? Do I believe that I'm superior to others? If that's your belief, you will act from that standpoint. Ah, I said it. Act from that standpoint. I'm superior to everyone. I win always. I never lose. So I'm not going to submit to the fact that you've won because I never lose. That's my belief, the core belief. And so I behave in a way that is so embarrassing to everyone looking, but you don't care because your beliefs promotes your behaviors. After beliefs, so it's not ABC, but it deals with the ABC, but the sequence is the A, C, B, and then guess what? We go right back to the alphabet and we go with D and E. So, what do you think is D? I'll tell you what is D. That's from here. Don't worry. We've got this. How about that? So, D is where we go to what I love and what is the basis of my thought shifting and fixation focus replacement. You dispute the belief. You dispute whatever it is that is showing up that you're holding as a thought. Are we going to thought shift with disputing? And how do you dispute that? Come on, you've got the information. If you've gone to howtorescueyourself.ca, you put your thoughts on trial. Voila, there you go. You got to put your thoughts on trial. And how do we put our thoughts on trial? Come on now, we're going for the finish line here. I'm working more with the how to rescue yourself. We've looked at the what, we've looked at the why, but now it's how. And what I'm saying is that you dispute those beliefs in terms of either thought shifting, and to thought shift, you have to put your thoughts on trial. And you put it on trial by doing what? There you go. So you have been listening. You're going to try to get evidence to support it. And if you can find what evidence, you simply ask yourself, a thought comes up, or you're in a place where your belief is about to control you, and you say, no, not today. We're not going there today. Hint, hint. For those of you with suicidal thoughts and ideations, when we're going to work on this is going to be our familiar phrase. Not today. We're not going there today. What is it we're not going with today? The thought that is now becoming rooted and bringing with it corresponding feelings of hopelessness, helplessness, and you then feel a sense of isolated and insulated. The four legs of or pillars of suicidal thinking. So, how did I arrive at suicidal thinking? Because the truth is, the root of just about everything has the origin in some very simple things about what makes us human, our capacity and ability to think. That's where it all stems from. And that's where I've arrived there. So, that person who is constantly having thoughts of hopelessness and helplessness and feeling that deep sense of insulation, not connected with anything or anyone outside of themselves because of isolation. You are constantly relapsing, repeated relapsing, reverting back to an old way of thinking. It might have served you at some point, and I share it. Mine, for example, I can't do this anymore. And every time I heard myself saying, I can't do this anymore, and didn't have a clue what I was saying until I was asked by someone, what is it you can't do anymore? And I had to stop, think about it. What I love about what the person did, which is good support, they didn't answer that for me. They knew the answer, but they asked the right question. What is it you're not able to do anymore? You can't do anymore. And they sat with me until I answered it. And I realized what I was saying. Life was just too much, too hard, and I couldn't do this anymore. So now, whenever I get a sense of, this is too hard, I say to myself, no, we're not going there today. And I stop it in its tracks. Because if you do have a predisposition to go with a certain trend of thought, same thing. How do you get to a lapse or a relapse? You revert back to an old way of thinking. So when that way comes up, this is too hard. This is stupidness. I'm not even going to do it. Even before you do it, that's the thought. Somebody tells you something that you don't like, activating event. What's the consequence of that? You get angry or you get frustrated, and then you decide that you want a bear, you want alcohol, you want a sniff, spliff, or you can sniff too, but you want a spliff. And then what's the belief? Well, I can't quit anyway, so why even try? I can't quit anymore. Why even try? What evidence do I have to support that? Dispute it. Put it on trial. So you get evidence to support it, and you get evidence against it. And the ones that pans out and there is more in favor of is the one that will either keep you in a lapse or a relapse, keep you in a mindset that is self-defeating, keep you in a mindset that is suicidal. What is it? What's your belief? And then finally, E, effective new belief. What you have in the moment. Once you dispute it, it doesn't stop there. So when I tell myself, no, we're not going there today, I have to make a choice. Where are we going to go today? I'm going to get on a plane. I love flying. I love traveling. So in my mind, I choose something that is rewarding because that's how we create memory and that's how we learn. And that is the reason why, come on, I haven't forgotten you, substance use disorder. I insist that with substance use disorder, with addictive quote unquote behaviors, we get to a place where we work with our brain for the brain to do what the brain is supposed to do: learn, reinforce, repeat. Learn, reinforce, repeat. Hence, we have a way of thinking that then promotes a certain behavior. So there you have it. That's how I make my work very easy, working with people with substance use disorder. Persons who have got some form of impulsivity, compulsivity, and an inability to delay gratification. What's the belief about that? That we're going to have to dispute, that we're going to have to put on trial so we can thought shift. And so after 2 or 3 sessions, people are like, okay, why is this so easy? Well, it's so easy because we have addressed what's the belief, what's the root cause. I can tell you from now to next year, stop drinking. You can stop drinking. But when the thing that promotes the feelings that led to you drinking in the first place, to because of impulsivity and compulsivity, and then you can't wait until the end of the month, if you've said in your treatment plan that you're gonna, if it's for harm reduction, only have one drink at the end of the month, but you can't because the craving is too much. What belief is promoting that behavior? That's where the money is. So we're 33 minutes in and we're getting through it. So the last thing we're looking at in the A, C, B, D, E of our problem solving approach or model, as against A, B, C, D, E, we say yes, it's an A, B, C model, but the approach goes with A, what's the activating event? C, what is the consequence of the activating event based on the choice that we are going to make, the way we embrace it, the way we feel it, our perception of it? What's our perception? And it's so ironic that the perception goes for both internal, how we perceive what we've experienced, and then what labeling we put on it based on our perception. Aha, you got it. Perception does not mean truth or real. It's a perception, something that you perceive, but it's not real. It doesn't necessarily have to be rooted in truth, but it becomes your reality because you've perceived it and then go on to believe it to be your truth. The thing that I learned in studying the brain, there isn't much that the brain knows that is factual. It makes educated guesses based on our interpretation of the sensation that is coming through our five senses. Of course, there are much more than five, but these are the essential ones that have been studied and proven to be of merit to say sight, sound, taste, touch. Yes, just that. And even that goes into the brain and is processed and become biochemical and has transmission, neurotransmission. But even at that level, it isn't a set of words and pictures. We constantly recreating that. But that's a totally different subject altogether. And you got to be really, that's what you want to get into and understanding the memory. And by the way, now that we're on that note, a good site that you may want to look up, okay? I'll try to remember to put that within the links, is practical psychology. It's one of the best resources that I think that is there that simplifies psychology and simplify all this thing about the mind and thinking and how we work on beliefs and behaviors and how we understand what is ultimately what prevents us from maintaining recovery, our refusal or unwillingness or the inability to think about our thinking. Uh-huh. To think about our thinking. And we call that metacognition. Meta, M-E-T-A, cognition. To think about your thinking. And what is it that we don't want to think about our thinking? Everything we said in the A, C, B, D, E. Okay, I know. I'm getting to that. Just relax. I'm going to get to how to create new beliefs. The challenges, the ones that are now maladaptive and does not solve you because of this its dysfunction, but it has been rooted within your super ego as core beliefs. And that's the thing about some of us, is that we have some core beliefs that no longer serve us, but we hold on to them because it's what we know. The ones that we're conscious of, that is. Can you imagine what is happening with those that we're not conscious of? They're running around, rip rap, roaring, making a whole heap of mess in our lives, our relationships, and our dysfunction with our life situation and circumstances, our professional, personal, and even our spiritual life. How your spiritual life? When you're in conflict with that which you say you believe, but you refuse to change it because you were conditioned to believe. What am I talking about? Are you in denial? You know, I must go here at some point during an episode. Are you in denial right now? Okay, let me break it down for you. What is our time? Okay, we've got about 7 minutes. You want call it, this one is for you. You said you were following it, the laughing therapist. So here goes the laughing therapist. I'm not getting it. Every time I look at the camera. Okay. You want to go there with me about your denial about being in conflict with that which you believe in? Okay, you want me to say you're in conflict with your concept of God? A lot of people who show up in therapy or show up for therapy, you'd be surprised at what they're there to talk about. This is not funny, Shirvington. Stop. You'd be surprised what they're there to talk about. And oftentimes is that there's some amount of being perplexed about that which they believe in. And because of guilt and some amount of shame, not wanting to even think about their thinking method, method cognition, that puts them in conflict. And that is the worst kind of conflict to have because you're questioning the very thing that you believe in but refuse. Because there's this urge to probably expand on it. Ah, you never looked at it that way. You don't have to change totally that you believe in a God that is in heaven. No. And you want to know how many people are playing a little game with themselves about that which they believe in, especially about God and their perception of God. I saw this as a title of a book and I fell in love with it. Everyone wants to go to heaven. No one wants to die. Powerful statement. And the reason for that, they don't believe the thing they say they believe. Yeah, I hope what this session has done for you is that you start now challenging, questioning, putting on trial many of your thoughts that are rooted in beliefs that you have not verified for yourself. Okay, if you have kids with you, please send them away. No, no, no. It's nothing explicit or foul that I'm about to say. Something profound, but I don't want to scar their thoughts about Christmas and Santa Claus. I want to tell you something about Santa Claus. No, no, no. It's not naughty. Oh, the kids are gone? You sure now? Okay. When I was a child, I believed, sincerely believed, that Santa Claus was real. That was a belief. And I believed it. Somewhere, without even much conscious thinking about it, I came into the realization that was not true. And I adapt to that. That is enhancing my belief. But I play along with kids so that they have the magic for a festival, Christmas time, or holiday. And they look forward to it and they believe that. But they themselves come into the realization, you know what? That doesn't make sense. That is putting a thought on trial. If he's so fat, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. If he's so fat, how is he coming down the chimney and getting back up and making it to all these houses all around the world in one night? That's how you put a thought on trial. Does it make sense and be willing to embrace the fact it doesn't have enough evidence to support? But a lot of people show up for therapy and in therapy because of that simple thing, the refusal to question their beliefs. Because it has been drilled and instilled in them not to be an independent thinker. Believe what I tell you. Confess to me. Let me tell you what to believe. And we wonder why some people remain in poverty. That's a totally different story altogether. This was great, but let's bring it home because I've got 1 minute to go. So, you replace whatever are the core beliefs with new ways of thinking or looking at the situation, or first of all, looking at the activating event, because the way you look at the activating event will determine how you feel and potentially how you behave. Voila. As simple as that. Okay, I know. Sounds simple. A lot of work to do. How do you master it? By having the tenacity, the willingness to do it over and over and over again. The same way you would have the behavior of using the substance or the behavior over and over again, which helps the brain reinforce, learn that, make it into memory. And so when you have another activating event similar to that one, instead of the old one showing up, the new one shows up. Namaste. I'm Shirvington Hannays, and this was Counselor on Call, because your mental health matters. See you next week. In fact, see you on Friday with how to rescue yourself from repeat relapsing because of chronic low self-esteem and self-sabotaging behaviors. Mindsets, sorry. Self-sabotaging mindsets. Bye for now.